Good afternoon, everybody. So, distinguished guests, excellencies, colleagues, my name is Neumara Arbex. I am from KPMG Brazil. I lead the topic of sustainability and ESG for Americas. It's my great honor to welcome you here for this very important discussion today. We are in a very critical moment in the agenda of climate change. We are in a year when we should have achieved a plateau of emissions. And we are there, but we don't know if we're going to continue decreasing emissions around the globe. So we need concrete and scalable solutions. A critical piece in the puzzle of finding solutions is collaboration. No country, no industry, no professionals can achieve, no regulators can achieve what we need to achieve without collaboration. In this sense, we have here as the center of the conversation, the partnership and the collaboration between Brazil and China. China, as we all know, has emerged as a cornerstone of the global green transformation, supplying clean technologies, innovation, and low carbon products. At the same time, Brazil has been becoming a powerhouse in nature-based solutions. For example, when we are restoring our forests, when we are investing in bioeconomy, when we are investing our sustainable energy matrix. Pioneers like Suzano, represented here today, is one of the most active player in all these fields. So the synergy between China technology and industrial capabilities and Brazil natural capital and sustainable practices in larger scale offers us unprecedented opportunities. Now, we have a privilege to have with us today a panel that can talk in depth about that. So first of all, we have Mr. Chi Dong-yan, the Secretary of the Party Committee and Director of the Center for Environmental Education and Communications in the Ministry of Ecology and Environment. Thank you very much for your presence. Thank you. He currently serves as the Party Committee Secretary and Director of the Center for Environmental Education and Communications of the Ministry of Ecology and Environment. We have also with us today Tao Yang. Nice having you here. Thank you very much. The Chief of the Council for Zero Carbon Cooperation Initiative from Tsingtao. Since 2006, he has been extensively engaged in climate change response and low carbon transition consulting. Thank you very much also for your collaboration to UNFCCC. Thank you. With us, we also have Claudia Trevisan. She is the Executive Director of the Brazil-China Business Council. She is also an author of 2 books, at least 2 books that I have listed here. I'm sure you have read much more, Claudia. On the Chinese relation to Brazil, one of them called China, the Rebirth of the Empire. She has a master's degree from the Johns Hopkins School of Advanced International Study, among many other titles and achievements. And our last star of the day is Malu Paiva. Malu is the Executive Vice President for Sustainability Communication and Brand at Suzano. She began her career 40 years ago. We should not say these things, it's like me. You see, in human resource, and she has been working only in sustainability for over 20 years. And I know that part of the story because this is our common road. She was the Executive Vice President of Sustainability also at Vale. So the previous panel on mining is also her area of expertise. And since 2024, she became a leader for this topic globally for Suzano. So welcome you all. Thank you very much for my guests. I have a list of questions. We're going to control the time and then see how long we go. There are many questions, many brilliant minds here with us today, so let's do our best. I'm going to start with Shindong-Yan, Mr. Shindong-Yan. I would like to talk about policy enablers for bio-innovation. China policies have successfully catalyzed a domestic clean tech revolution. We all have been watching you closely. What policy lessons can be drawn to support the growth of a globally integrated bioeconomy, and how international cooperation can help boosting it?
女士们、先生们，大家下午好。我用汉语来发言，然后呢，我的翻译帮我翻成英语。
Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, hello everyone. So from now on, I'm going to speak in Chinese, and then I'll have people for me to translate into English.
中国推动清洁技术革命的，在政策、顶层设计、金融支持、产学研协同等多个方面，形成了一整套成熟的经验，可以为世界上其他的许多的国家、地区和组织的作为一些借鉴。主要有以下4点，我做一个简要的说明。
So I would like to present you in order for the innovation in the bioeconomy. Actually, China has been doing a lot in regard from the governmental perspective. So starting from main 4 pillars, there are inclusive high-level design, the support from finance, triple helix collaboration among industry, academia, and research. Last but not least, the value chain support and the value chain engagement.
一是注重长期的顶层设计，减少政策的不确定性和短期变化给企业造成的影响。
So the first one, for the inclusive and high-level design, actually we're aiming for more strategic and long-term engagement so that actually to minimize and decrease the changing of the policy.
例如，我们从制定国家发展的第11个5年规划开始，就做好了顶层设计。明年即将开启的是第15个5年计划。这么个长时间之内，我们的政策的延续性和稳定性，就会让企业减少很多的不必要的困惑，或者是政策调整风险带来的变化，增加了成本。
Actually, starting from the 11th 5-year plan, China already have finished the high-level design. And actually, for the next year, starting from the 15th 5-year plan, we continue the design from the high-level perspective. So this kind of continuity and the stability supports the continuation of the development, so that we are not confusing the companies.
第二点呢，是通过多层次的金融政策体系的支持，来破解企业资金难的这个问题。
So the second point is from the financial perspective. Actually, there are multi-layer of the financial support to tackle such problem in sustainability, so that we are trying to help all the companies, from the big companies and the SMEs, don't have to worry about the financial support.
例如，我们有国家开发银行提供的低息贷款和融资担保，还有绿色债券、碳中和债等多层次的绿色金融产品，可供企业选择。
For example, for the NDB, actually there are various types of financial products that can be available for the companies. For example, for the SLBs and green bond, they're actually within a very low interest rate.
第三呢，我们建立了一套高效的协同机制，例如，我们组建了一种监测机构，加上高等院校，加上龙头企业，加上下游应用端的产学研用创新联合体，这一个模式啊，应该说也很有对其他这个全球生物经济发展的具有可借鉴的意义和价值。
The third point is actually a very the creative mode that we have for cooperation. So we combine various stakeholders throughout the value chain, including but not limited to companies, big companies, SMEs, auditing firms, universities, so that to collaborate them together to create the ecosystem and consortium. So this kind of collaboration actually is a very good example to set up from starting from China, and I think from an international perspective, it can also be a very good model to scale up.
第四呢是全产业链精准扶持，完善产业生态体系。
So the fourth point is actually to engage more throughout the value chain.
关于碳负产品标准国际合作，我们希望能够通过统一规则，打通流通壁垒，来加速全球生物经济一体化的进程。
So I can give out an example. For example, there is a carbon negative product standard debuted and also collaborated among the international stakeholders. So for this initiative, actually it has uniformed or stabilized the corresponding standard for such carbon negative product.
我简要用4句话来归纳一下。
So
一是统一标准，打破贸易壁垒，拓宽市场空间；二是降低技术研发成本，推动创新共享；三是引导全球资源合理配置，形成规模效应；四是凝聚全球共识，推动政策协同和投资倾斜。
So in regard to the carbon negative product, actually there are 4 highlights I want to point it out so that for everybody to think in depth. So the first is the standardized process and then the procedure that global level we can actually go follow. The second is actually lower the cost in the research and development perspective, so that to leverage the global resources to dedicate it in the and then to put the resources together. The third is actually to optimize the corresponding available resources for such standard and to implement. Last but not least, this carbon negative product standard is to bring from a global level the consensus together and then to push this agenda together.
Thank you， 谢谢。
Thank you. Can you hear me? Yeah? Thank you, thank you. So, Mr. Tao Yan, now I have a question for you. On synergy with nature-based solutions, Chinese enterprise are scaling technological decarbonization. How do you see opportunities for integrating your clean tech solutions, such as logistic or manufacturing, with bio-based value chains and nature positive business model to have a positive impact on climate change?
Okay, thank you for having me here. I would like to share some observation and experience based on the Chinese industry practice. First of all, as we can see, China has been the largest with the largest demand of clean fuel in trucking. I mean the road transportation and the marine transportation. For example, it can be a green corridor between China and Brazil. For example, the BYD supply chain can be maintained with green fuel in marine in roadway. On the other side, there is still an increasing demand on petrochemical products. For example, the interior of the EV and the textile, some consumer goods with increasing demand. There can be a huge potential of the collaboration between Brazil and China based for the bio-based materials, more than beyond the biofuel. Secondly, I would like to share an example in China. In Zhejiang province, Lishui City, it's a similar population with Belém. And there are pilot project like this. The green company, I mean the state green company in Lishui City built up a green hydrogen project which can enhance or purify the biogas, so that the biogas manufactured by their farmer household can be tapped into their town gas pipeline. It's a successful business model to make the farmer can benefit from their clean technology, and it's a very unique pilot to use biomass to biogas. Of course, we are talking a lot about their biodiesel, but I think their biogas can be very potential in city, in urban infrastructure, and it can benefit also the rural area. I think it's a very interesting case in China. Can be a synergy.
Oh, this is a great example also for cities like Belém, right? Or this size, we have millions of them throughout the globe. So now my question is for you, Claudia. We recognize the powerful synergy between China's manufacturing scale and Brazil's bio-based resources. Yet, for this partnership to reach its full potential, we have to align standards, and this is critical. So we have to speak the same standards language to talk to each other in terms of operations, of level of quality. So, from your unique perspective, how do you think this will happen in the next years to come?
Okay, thank you so much, Nomara. It's a pleasure to be here with you today and share the panel with you all. I think this conversation is already happening.
Okay.
Right? I think there are a lot of discussions at government, private, and non-government levels from China and Brazil about green standards and taxonomy. And just before the beginning of the COP30, Brazil released the Brazilian Sustainable Taxonomy that covers, among other areas, covers agriculture and forests. And at the government, and I think one of the main concerns from the Brazil side is that the taxonomy reflects the characteristics of the tropical agriculture that is practiced in Brazil. That is very different from the temporary climate agriculture from Europe. And besides releasing its taxonomy, the Brazil this year also initiated the process to join the multi-jurisdiction common ground taxonomy. That is a mechanism that congregates China, the European Union, and Singapore. So I think these are paths to harmonize and just a little more. And at the government level, the main arena for discussion of these issues is the Sino-Brazilian high level of cooperation and consultation that is chaired by the Vice President of Brazil and the Vice President of China. And inside, and it's known as COSBAN, and inside COSBAN, the institution that concentrates the discussions on green standards and taxonomy is the Economic and Finance Subcommittee that is coordinated by the Vice Ministers of Brazil, Vice Ministers of Finance from Brazil and China. And this subcommittee met in September in Brazil. And just before the meeting, they organized a forum on Brazil-China financial cooperation. And this forum had the participation of government officials, regulators from both sides, banks, private companies such as Suzano was there. And at the agenda of the discussions, it was green standards, taxonomy, the ways to expand capital to finance sustainable projects, the use of local currencies in bilateral financial transactions, and the increase in the interconnectivity between Brazil and China's capital and financial markets. And at the Brazil-China Business Council, besides supporting these initiatives, every year we organize, in partnership with a Chinese institution called Institute of Finance and Sustainability, we organize the China-Brazil Dialogue on Green Finance and Cooperation on Sustainable Agriculture. And we held the 5th edition of this dialogue the day before yesterday in São Paulo, and with the participation of financial institutions, NGOs, and companies. Suzano was there, and also the Brazilian Ministry of Agriculture. And since the beginning, since the first dialogue that happened in 2021, we have been discussing the issue of green standards and taxonomy and the importance of both countries talking the same language in these areas to make the finance happen. No, this is an essential prerequisite, no, to have green finance, to have the same references and standards.
Thank you. Of course, not only important to understand how policies can, accelerate collaborations in climate change action, but also, of course, how we're going to speak the same language. To have standards is very critical. Now I would like to go to another side of the game, and the game is, talk to Malu from Suzano. Malu, how can companies like Suzano, a global player, leverage partnerships to scale up nature-based solutions and contribute to national and global climate goals?
Okay, good morning to everybody. I'm very honored to be here with all of you. But Nilmara, if you allow me, I want to speak about collaboration with China. Yes. Suzano has a long history with China since the 80s. 80s. Yes, 80s, yes. And it has been growing, right? China is Suzano's largest market, for all of you, just to know, where we sell our pulp, right? Yes, that's where we sell the biggest part of our pulp. And within the last 5 years, we have been increasing our presence in China, going beyond the commercial area. Today, we have almost a little Suzano in China, with representatives from many different departments, including the sustainability area that we have now. And also, we have what we call our innovability hub. That's the innovation plus sustainability hub, where we are making our innovations straight with our Chinese collaborator. So I think that we say that we are in China for China. That's the mode of our team based in China. We have a lot of collaborations going on with our customers, but since 2022, we start to enlarge this ecosystem of collaboration. So in our days, we are collaborating with Chinese universities, with NGOs as well, with our suppliers for sure, and also with our customers. But I want to call attention for 2 examples. Decarbonization is a main subject. So in the beginning of this year, we launched what we called our white paper on decarbonization, a type of protocol, that any company that wants to go through a decarbonization process should be following. And now, together with Mr. Cao, we are working on looking at our customers in China. They are making an assessment of their own emissions, their own profile of emissions, and Mr. Cao Xingcao is helping us to build the plan of each of them, the decarbonization plan, and how it's going to be implemented. So we are really making efforts together towards decarbonize our value chain regarding our customers in China, right? And in the case of Mr. Ian, we have a very beautiful program, right, focused on education for nature. In the last 2 years, we reached 2 million kids, on our program, Education for Nature program. And I have the pleasure to welcome in São Paulo, in the Parque das Neblinas, that's one preserved area that belongs to Suzano. We welcome Mr. Lee, that works with Mr. Ian, and a group of Chinese kids that spent 2 weeks in Brazil to know Brazil, to understand our culture, our nature. And I was there with a Brazilian kids group. The Brazilian kids didn't speak any Chinese, and the Chinese didn't speak any Portuguese, but through nature, they were able to spend a whole day together. It was really a lovely experience. So, we are working really together on the future through the education and the present through how to decarbonize our value chain. And just to give an example outside the Chinese context, I am also very proud we are working with in the human rights arena, creating a due diligence protocol for human rights that would be applied in all our supply chain. Okay, we are doing that together with the Global Compact and together with the International Labour Organization. That's something that we hope that we can elevate the level of robustiness, to make it more robust, any due diligence regarding human rights within our sector, because that's going to become a global standard in the future.
So very nice news. So I'm glad to hear so many ways of collaborating, also outside of decarbonization only, but also education. And human rights is a challenge in our continent. I am the head of sustainability and ESG in Latin America, and we have been discussing human rights due diligence in many different supply chains, value chains, and also to understand what's needed to guarantee the international protocols for that in long term. Almalu has some.
No, I remember another one. That's from another area. It's about finance. We launched the first panda bond, and the first one that has the forest replantation in China has the forest plantation as the use of procedures. So, we are really trying to combine efforts in many different areas: education, financing, and decarbonization.
Yeah, I think
on board.
Talking, we're going to remember collaborations, right? It's wonderful. So very easy to be a moderator in such a panel, actually. So let's try. We have time for our second round, and I still have lots of things here I would like to know from our panelists. So I'm going to go back to Mr. Shidong-yan, if I may. In in the context of South-South cooperation, what innovative models is China exploring to de-risk and finance greenfield projects that can combine, of course, technology is one of your strengths, with sustainable natural resource management? We know that the South has a kind of a privileged situation in terms of natural capital. And we know that China is leading or is ready to lead the innovations wave for South-South collaboration. Could you please tell us more about that?
好的，
Yes,
Eh.
good.
好的，很荣幸来回答主持人的这个问题。在南南合作这个框架之下，中国呢通过技术合作、融资机制、产业链的小切口协同作战等多方面的这个合作创新模式，既解决了绿色金融的融资难与风险问题，也实现了先进的技术与可持续发展问题、自然资源的这个整合问题。我主要从几个具体的例子来说明一下，来帮助大家进行理解。
Yes, I'm very honored to answer your question. So within the framework of South-South collaboration, China has employed various innovative approaches, such as technology cooperation, financing mechanism, industrial chain collaborations, and small-scale ecological partnerships. These are not only addressing the finance and the risk challenges of the green projects, but also achieve a deep integration of advanced technologies with sustainable nature resources management mainly including the following aspects.
技术合作创新，例如我们在非洲，我们向维多利亚湖区的国家推广了适合当地的一些清洁造土、炉灶、稻田鸭、生态养殖技术等，既降低了对森林资源的破坏，又减少了对水体的污染。
So the first one is completing value chain transfer and with the joint R&D for technology adaptation. On one hand, a technology for market strategy is adopted to promote technology implementations. On the other hand, joint R&D is conducted based on the climate characteristics of the cooperation regions. For example, in Africa, China has promoted locally adapted technologies such as clean clay stove and rice duck ecological farming to countries.
又例如，我们用模块化与去中心化的这个技术体系，主要是为了解决不同地区在项目发展上的这个技术垄断问题。比如我们在巴西这个叫类西非这样一个城市，我们设立了光伏组件移动工厂，这个技术非常实用。通过生产线生产出来的产品，72个小时之内可以部署到非洲的国家进行组装，开始发电。我们还采用了这个风电叶片的生物基复合材料标准，在用了巴西的这个甘蔗渣做的这个原材料，作为这个枫叶的叶片，打破了这个欧美的技术垄断，不仅可以降低成本，还能够完全实现自然可降解。
Also, I would like to address on the modular and decentralized technology system, which we are trying to address issues of the project deployment in different regions and to decrease or to solve the technological monopolies. For example, China and Brazil has established a mobile photovoltaic module factory in Recife in Brazil, where centralized production lines can be deployed to Africa countries within 72 hours. Also, they have also jointly developed a standard for bio-based composite materials for wind turbine blades, such as sugarcane residues, breaking the European and American technology.
第二呢，我们是进行这个融资机制的这个创新比如说我们结合不同币种的结算方式简化了程序，节约了成本，用本币结算与多边基金协同这个解决了这个采用，比如说在中巴合作当中，我们就采用了人民币和雷亚尔直接结算这样一种方式，从而规避了国际汇率变动给企业所带来的金融风险。
The second one is the innovation from the financial perspective. Actually, the local currency settlement and multilateral fund collaboration is very crucial. So we using directly RMB and Brazilian reais settlement help avoid exchange rate fluctuation risks. At the same time, leveraging energy transition special fund established by BRICS New Development Bank, joint guarantees are provided to reduce financing cost for green projects in countries such as Angola and Pakistan. The NDB itself has also provided nearly 40 billion in financing to 120 projects in Global South.
又例如，我们通过用中国的金融机构来推动绿色债权，助力南方国家的这个绿色金融项目的这个发展。例如，中国银行协助巴西舒赞安诺集团，从2024年11月发行了12亿元的绿色熊猫债，资金主要用于培育绿色认证人的人工桉树林的种植。今年10月份，我们又再次发行了14亿元的熊猫债，其中中国的工商银行、中国银行等还发行有碳中和和共建“一带一路”可持续发展等绿色主题的这个金融债券。
Second point I want to address on the green bonds and the specialized financing instruments. Actually, as Malu mentioned, last year Suzano has issued the first green panda bond with the UOP of sustainable forest plantation with in total approximately 200 million US dollars, and actually they're issuing another successful one this year. So also for the Bank of China, ICBC, and the other Chinese banks, they are all focusing on the carbon neutral and also a One Belt, One Road initiative, focusing on financing for such topics in the green finance.
第三个方面呢，是通过产业链与资源协同进行创新，比如我们通过关键矿产与产能的联动布局在巴西呢共建了全球最大光伏级多晶硅产业园，同时采用了中国改良了的西门子法搭配了巴西的绿电，降低了生产成本，提高了产品的竞争力。同时呢，我们通过绿色标准与溯源体系的共建呢，联合制定的风电、叶片、生物基复合材料这样一个标准，为南方国家的绿色发展提供了可遵循的南方标准，也避免了陷入欧美所提供的技术壁垒和规则壁垒。
Also, the third point I want to address on the value chain partnership and then also the co-creation and innovation. For example, the coordinated layout of the key minerals and mining industries to co-build the world's largest photovoltaic grade polysilicon industrial park in Brazil using China's improved Siemens process combined with Brazil's green electricity to reduce production and cost and enhance the product competitiveness. And the second one is the joint development of green standard and traceability system, so that the joint effort formulated the standards for bio-based composite, so that for the green industrial chains in South countries, helping to avoid falling into the technology and regulatory barriers.
第四呢，是通过合作模式的创新，我们摒弃了过去追求大而全的模式，而采用小而美的这个小切口的这个模式开展合作。比如说，我们在中国的江西省有一个著名的鄱阳湖，通过这个湖区的这个省和非洲的维多利亚湖区的国家呢进行合作，通过一些具体的肯尼亚、坦桑尼亚等这些地区进行具体的这个改测、改造雨水储存、推广庭院经济、发展循环农业等这些具体的项目呢，用小切口取得了巨大的成效和合作效果。
In order to address the weak infrastructure and the complex national conditions in some southern countries, China actually has not focusing on the large and comprehensive projects model, but in order to adopt to a more smaller and beautiful ecological collaboration approach. For example, in the case of China reaching to Africa's largest freshwater lakes, Jiangxi province has continuously collaborated with relevant regions in Kenya, Tanzania, and other countries, starting with urgent need for technical solutions to improve the toilet situation and the stove situation by the rainwater storage.
以上，谢谢 ，Thank you.
Yeah, so this is my answers to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As I said, I'm always impressed, and I am sure the list will continue all day, right? If you want to talk all day. Very, very impressed. I am a person who really follow very closely what China's relations to the South is producing in terms of progress, and I'm very glad to have listened to your examples. Thank you very much. Mr. Taoyan, we are now talk about global green supply chains. So beyond domestic markets, where you are already very present, how is your company leveraging its expertise and capacity to foster green and resilient supply chains internationally, particularly in the South?
Okay, I would like to share two view of point of mine. Point one, I would like to talk about the standard. As we know, currently it's a trend of integration. For example, the SB are leading their integration of information disclosure. For example, ESG standard. Also, currently GHG protocol is integrating with ISO standard. So it's a trend of uniform standard system globally. However, based on my experience working with ISO, I mean the International Standard Organization and UNFCCC, some multilateral organization, most of their standard currently we utilized. We name it international standard, but their local reality, local practice cannot be fully reflected in current international standard. For example, the revision of electricity carbon emission accounting in GHG protocol maybe may increase their accuracy, but at the cost of higher operational cost for organizations. So what is a direct definition of accuracy? Similar, we are talking about the transparency, but the higher quality of data, we have higher dependency on AI, on software. It also can be a cost for organization and the supply chain. So I think the South-South collaboration can contribute more local practice and integrate such practice into international standard. Secondly, we can also contribute with collaboration in supply chain and the dominating companies such like Suzano. We can provide public, accessible, open data site to fulfill the requirement of supply chain transparency. And for example, we would like to know how much emission for the bio-based material. We heard it's quite a lot of merits, but how much carbon decreased compared to normal situation. We need data site, but some data site is not can be expensive, but supply chain can share such know-how, share the data, so can lower the cost, higher quality. That is another track we would like to promote the collaboration among supply chain. And finally, I think it can be a new direction to make transparency of data to be useful for consumer. Currently, we are talking about the data quality, to talk about the Scope 3 data to fulfill the mandatory policy requirement instead of consumer decision making. In this COP, we can see a lot of normal people come to visit the COP, and the COP bring people connected to climate topic, and they might think about their daily life with their impression or the impact, and try to contribute to mitigate their climate change. In that case, their data, their figures can bring new meaningless to daily goods. That is what we can do to, for example, the labels, their carbon footprint tag with certificate. That can be meaningful for consumer decision making. That is a new direction. Instead of their only requirement, their mandate, we also can provide useful information for market. That is my opinion on the supply chain decarbonization and data quality and sharing.
Thank you very, very much. I am an expert in data and robustness of data. So I think the next decade we're going to spend most of our time discussing how can we make data good enough for decisions we're going to have to make. So great contribution from your company to the challenge we're going to be facing. Claudia, I'm going to go back to you just to follow the sequence we have been doing. So, of course, we have been talking a lot about Chinese role in terms of the technology side of the transition, the investment side of transition. And we have been talking about renewable energy a lot. But in your opinion, which are the main sectors that, considering the role that the Chinese investment technology have played in Brazil's energy transition, which are the most promising areas for cooperation?
Okay, thank you, Neumara. Well, to start, I'd like both you and Sao mentioned that China emerged in the last decade or decade and a half as a global leader in many of the technologies that are crucial for decarbonization, like solar and wind power, electric batteries, and electric vehicles. And in this period, China also emerged as a very important foreign investor in Brazil, with a very big concentration on energy. Every year, the Brazil-China Business Council releases a report on Chinese investments in Brazil. And we have data since 2007. From 2007 to 2024, we identify a stock of Chinese investments in Brazil of 77 billion US dollars. And from this amount, 45% was invested in the electricity sector, in generation, transmission, and distribution of electricity. And these investments helped to increase the efficiency of the Brazilian electric system. And looking ahead, and besides that, we have seen recently a diversification of sustainable Chinese investments in Brazil, green projects in Brazil. And I think the most prominent example is the investments of both BYD and GWM to produce electric cars in Brazil. And besides producing electric cars, they're also going to produce hybrid cars. That I think it's the main symbol of how Chinese technology in electric vehicles and Brazilian technology in biofuels can work together. And looking ahead of the sectors that can be the most promising ones, I think the obvious is biofuels. Brazil has a lot of competitive advantages in the production of biofuels. And I think particularly in the areas of sustainable aviation fuel to decarbonize aviation, and something that Sal also mentioned, maritime transportation. This will be a huge task ahead, and Brazil and China can cooperate with technology, finance to develop projects in these two areas. And we are already seeing the interest of Chinese companies. Earlier this year, one Chinese company, Envision, announced an investment of $1 billion in Brazil to produce sustainable aviation fuel and also green hydrogen, low carbon hydrogen and green ammonia. And I think another area that is promising is something that Malu mentioned, and Suzano is at the forefront of it, which is the development of bioproducts that can replace fossil fuel materials in many industries, including plastics and textiles. China is also developing very fast its pharmaceutical industry. And I think there is a huge potential for cooperation in the development of pharmaceuticals with the partnership of China and Brazil. And finally, I think another area that China can play a very important role in sustainability, in the improve of the efficiency in both agriculture and the bioeconomy is connectivity and digital technology. That China is a leader today, is a leader in 5G, is more and more important in artificial intelligence, in Internet of Things, sensors, drones. So I think all this innovation and technology can be applied to increase the efficiency of the bioeconomy sector of Brazil.
Thank you, Claudia. I was thinking exactly the same. Very often we talk about Brazil and China particularly in connection with the renewable energy agenda. But when you think broadly, we are talking about bioeconomy, we are talking about technology, we are talking about pharmaceutical industry. So there are so many connections that we could explore in terms of Chinese leadership and also everything we can do in the South. Malu, so back to you. Let's talk now about sustainable forestry and carbon sequestration. So, of course, we know a player like Suzano is sequestering a lot of carbon, particularly when you have sustainable forestry practices. But thinking about the fact that Suzano is a global leader in sustainable production. So how do your forestry management and way you define your land use strategy can enhance carbon sequestration? And after that, which metrics do you use to really monitor this contribution?
Thanks, Numara. Well, first of all, we are very nature-based, right? We manage today 1.7 million of hectares of eucalyptus, and we manage also 1.1 million hectares of native forests that's set aside for conservation. So it, by itself, the basics of the company is already a very powerful carbon sink, right? And we are also very science-oriented. We are always looking for the best seed, the best clone, to be, so that we can be very productive, but without increasing the size of land that we need, to diminishing our impact. So every time you gain productivity, it means that you are also removing more carbon because the tree is growing, and that's what makes the carbon to be removed, right? But besides the basics of the business, we also have some voluntary initiatives. We committed ourselves by 2030 to have 500,000 hectares connected, creating 3 ecological corridors, Cerrado, Mata Atlântica, and in the Amazon biome as well. So this is done on a voluntary basis. Part, like 1/3 of it is one within our own fences, okay, and it's almost done. And now we are starting the phase that we have to go to the small farmer, to the small holder, and offer to them to be part of the program. He will be receiving everything so that he or she can plant it, and can help to monitor. So this 500,000 corridor, I think that's another important initiative. We are also one of the partners of Biomas that a company created three COPs ago, okay, focusing only on restoration, ecological restoration. And we have also other, restoration initiatives, doing on a voluntary basis, because we do believe that the good balance between native and planted forest is good for the business itself. It's good for the planet and it's good for the business. So it's working out very well. Regarding the metrics that we use the GAG protocol totally. We make a GAG inventory based on aligned with the GAG protocol and ISO for scope 1, 2, and 3. And the key metric that we use is the net removal, because let's think that we have the forest that removes, but I have the mills that emit. So the key metric that we use is the net between the removal and the emissions of the company. When I'm saying that that's what we have today is because we are also very keen in following all the new technologies that are being developed. We know that are things coming out of satellites, type of, how you can measure your carbon emissions or contributions. So we are using those tools and quite robust type of strategy. Everything is audited to be sure that we are really getting the true data, but we are also open to learn.
So we have a few minutes left, so I'm going to close our panel, sadly, because I'm really curious, just make me think a lot about new questions, to be honest. But I would like to ask each of you, now I'm going to start with you, Malu. and I'm going to end up with you. So I would like to know, which do you think will be the COP30 legacy? What's going to remain with us after COP30 is finished? Thank you.
I hope that's going to be about implementation and scaling up. That's what we need now.
Sorry. Well, I hope it will be about finance, that you have a clear path to reach 1.3 trillion annually in climate finance by 2035.
I would like to say we are stepping in a new era. Era I name it a post-West era for global climate governance. And might be lead or dominated by South countries since this COP. That is my view. And secondly, another legacy for this COP, I believe this COP in Brazil will be the most successful COP in the history, because we don't need to rely on the core agenda. I attend several action agenda hosted by the presidency country. Very inspired. I think the narrative about just transition is not a concept, not a topic. It can be a narrative in daily life for consumer decision making. For example, since this COP in China market, the youngsters will have better image, expectations for product sourced from Amazonia. That can be a very carbon negative or climate positive choice for daily life. I think that can be a legacy from this COP.
我来到巴西贝伦，正好1个星期的时间。首先，我感受到了热带雨林炎热的天气，感受到了巴西人民对我们的热情洋溢的招待，同时也感受到了包括在座、包括我在内的所有的热情，愿意积极推动 COP30大会取得积极的成效。
So I actually, as the final panelist to speak, I want to actually share something from bottom of my heart. Actually, I've been landed in Belém for just a week, for 7 days. And actually, I will share what I feel. So first, I feel the humidity from the rainforest. I feel the hospitality from Brazilian people. And actually, last but not least, I can feel the passion for everyone from this house to push the success for COP30. So I believe all these three will continue. Thank you.
我用4句话简要的感受一下我对 COP30的感受。第一，就是热带雨林永久基金正式启动。第二呢，就是甲烷减排行动形成制度化的落实路径，也就是我们说的非二氧化碳以外的这个节能减排的行动的落地。第三呢，是我们通过这个大会强化了全球治理环境治理过程当中南方国家的话语权和主导权。我们在推动气候行动落地方面将更具备执行力和更加的富有成效。最后呢，就是我认为我们这次 COP30大会呢，有效地承接了 COP29以来取得的成效，我们大家共同努力，把这个成效推向深入，推向落实。
But now I'm going to say something serious. Actually, I'm going to conclude everything in 4 points. The first actually is the successful kickoff of the fund TFFF. The second is actually we have outlined the need and actually the action plan of biomethane. The third is actually, I think during this COP, actually we have strengthened and dominant the voice from the southern countries. And last but not least, actually COP30 is the first COP having the continuity of the previous COP. And I believe for all those 4 points, we're going to strengthen and continue the impact from COP30. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much, all of you, for your contribution to this panel. I think with the last and all contributions, we're going to leave this panel a little bit lighter and happier and brave to face everything we have to face in the next decade, basically. Lots of energy for that. Thank you very much, all of you. Thank you for your participation.